You're probably staring at a sea of laptop specs, wondering if you're about to throw away hard-earned cash on something that sounds great on paper but ends up gathering dust in the corner. It's a real pain when you pick a machine for gaming, portability, or just everyday work and it can't keep up with the games you want to play or the battery life you need on the road. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm here to walk through why the new 2024 MacBook Air with the M3 chip might or might not be the right fit for you. First off, the MacBook Air isn't marketed as a gaming laptop in the traditional sense. Apple's focus is on a thin, featherweight chassis, an 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU that they tout as blazing for everyday tasks and creative work. The real question is whether that GPU can hold its own when you fire up titles like Valorant, Elden Ring, or even the latest indie hits. In my own testing, the M3's integrated graphics handled most modern games at 720p with medium settings, keeping frame rates in the 4,560 frames per second window. That's enough for a smooth experience if you don't expect ultra-high settings or 144 Hz refresh rates, but it won't replace a dedicated RTX series laptop for hardcore esports or AAA titles at 1080p. Heat and fan noise are two of the biggest concerns for any thin laptop you plan to game on. The Air's design is fanless, which means you won't hear that whirring hum that many gamers learn to live with. The trade-off is that under sustained load, think a marathon gaming session, thermal throttling does kick in after about 20-30 minutes. The CPU and GPU will start to back off a little to stay within safe temperatures, which you'll notice as a dip in frame rates. If you're okay with occasional short gaming bursts and value a silent workspace, the fanless approach is a win. If you plan to push games for hours on end, you'll feel the limits. Keyboard feel is surprisingly solid on the Air. The backlit scissor mechanism keys have a short travel that many writers love, and the tactile feedback is consistent enough for quick reflexes in fast-paced shooters. It's not the same as the deep-click mechanical keys you find on dedicated gaming machines, but it's more than adequate for both typing and gaming inputs. I've logged dozens of gaming sessions and the keys never felt mushy or unresponsive, even after the laptop had been running hot. Battery life is where the Air truly shines, and it's a major factor for anyone who wants to game away from a wall outlet. Apple claims up to 18 hours of mixed-use battery, and real-world tests line up pretty closely. You can stream YouTube, run a few browser tabs, and slip in a 30-minute gaming session before the charge drops below 50%. When you crank the graphics up to the higher settings, you'll see the battery drain faster, but you still get well over 45 hours of playtime, far beyond what most traditional gaming laptops can promise on a single charge. The 13.6-inch Liquid Retina display is another highlight. With a billion colors and a peak brightness that makes HDR content pop, the screen is a joy for both creative work and gaming. The native resolution sits at 25601664, delivering crisp textures even at 720p gaming. However, the panel's refresh rate is locked at 60 Hz, so you won't get the buttery smoothness of a 120 Hz gaming panel. If you're a competitive gamer who relies on ultra-high frame rates, the display will feel a bit limiting, but for most casual or story-driven games the visual fidelity is excellent. Portability is arguably the Air's strongest selling point. We're talking about a machine that's under half an inch thick, weighs just about 2.7 pounds, and slides easily into a backpack. Carry it to a coffee shop, a college lecture hall, or a weekend trip, and you'll barely notice it. Compare that to a typical 15-inch gaming laptop that often tips the scales at 56 pounds and bulks out with a larger cooling system. If you value a lighter experience, the Air is hard to beat. Now let's talk money. The base model starts at a price that puts it in the premium tier, especially when you factor in the 16 GB of unified memory and a 512 GB SSD. For someone who could buy a dedicated gaming laptop with a dedicated GPU for the same price, the Air's price may feel steep. The upside is that you get a device that also doubles as a high-end productivity tool, thanks to the M3's efficiency with apps like Adobe Creative Cloud, Microsoft 365, and even some light video rendering. If your primary need is a versatile machine that can dabble in gaming while serving as your main work laptop, the price makes sense. If you're looking for pure gaming power, you'll likely get more bang for your buck with a Windows-based system that has a discrete GPU. Who should buy this? If you're a student, a content creator, or a professional who needs a reliable